Hello and welcome. I'm Dr. Troy Munson on Words of Radiance. And today is a wild ride, folks. So strap on your seatbelt or just stick your hands up in the air and go for the carnival ride. But what we're going to talk about today is the concept of how do things and why do things happen to us? And why do we continually get what we want? Let me give you some examples. When fear gets a hold of us, we'll say things, and I hear people say stuff, well, you got to protect yourself. You probably ought to have a gun because you probably need to keep your family safe. You have to work. And there's all these strange ideas out there. Well, you got to wear a mask. You probably should get a vaccine. It's just weird how fear drives us to some really crazy practices. And yet, as you ask most people that would consider themselves sane, and you say, well, should you get a vaccine? Well, absolutely you should. That keeps you safe. Well, absolutely you should wear a seatbelt because that keeps you safe. Well, absolutely you should, have a gun because that keeps you safe. Well, sure, you should go to work so you can make some money so you can have a home and lock your doors to keep you safe. It's really quite strange out there. And we do all these weird things, but I want to give you a little kind of a peeling back the curtain, so to speak, on Mr. Oz and looking at this mysterious behind the curtains kind of thing of how the brain really works. And it is quite profound, but also can be a little bit scary and can be very angering. So I'm just going to give you a spoiler alert. You might get very angry about what I'm about to say, but if I can prep you enough and you can say, well, you can't make me angry. Excellent. That's a great place to be. So let's dive in. And maybe you're like, I think I'm going to just turn this off right now. That might be your choice, and that's probably okay too, but eventually you'll turn it back on and you'll give it a listen. So go and do what you need to do at this point. So here we go. So when we have this idea of something happening to us or something that could happen to us, and maybe something has happened to us. And I'm going to use some extreme examples today so that we can get an idea of what it is that I'm trying to convey. But let's first start off with something innocuous. I dropped my keys. Okay. So don't you know where your hand is in space? Haven't you kept your keys in your hand pretty much most of the time when you've pulled them out of your pocket to undo the lock on your car or your door? Haven't you, grabbed a plate out of the cupboard and used the plate and you didn't drop it? Haven't you used a spoon or a fork 1,000 times, it seems like, in your life? Do you really not know how to use something, a tool, with your hand? We've done it so many times. That's if you have hands. Maybe you're one of the very few people out there that does not have them. Then this does not apply to you. So apply it to something else or figure out a better example. But for most of us, when we use a tool like that, and let's say we drop it, and then we get what? We get a little irritated. For the love. And I realized that if I did know where my hand is in space, and I have felt my keys many times, I have put them in a lock way over 1,000 times in my life, why then do I drop my keys an inordinate amount of times? Well, as I delved into this little concept of my mind, I realized that I was actually wanting to do that. And I was wanting to do it because I wanted to feel the irritation. And you think, well, who in their right mind would want to be irritated? Well, I can tell you this, that if you get irritated with things or frustrated with things, you do too. Or it would not happen. What do you mean, Doc? You mean that I'm asking to be irritated? To be frustrated? Yes, you are. And so was I. And then when I finally realized I don't want to do that anymore, I would rather hang on to my keys and everything stay in my hand that I hold on to. And the most miraculous thing started happening. I didn't drop my keys anymore. And if on the oft rare chance that I actually did drop something, I would snatch it out of the air amazingly. I mean, I literally dumbfounded myself sometimes. I couldn't believe it. And I realized that I had given the directive in my mind, I don't wish to be frustrated anymore. I wish to be at peace. I wish to have little things not happen that could be irritants to me. I didn't need that anymore in my life. And so it didn't. Now, we're going to switch gears and we're going to go to an extreme example of this. And this is not going to make many of you very pleased or happy. And I am not going to apologize for it. But this is a gift for you, whether you want to get rid of this stuff out of your mind or you want to keep letting it perpetrate in your life. So let's not go to a completely extreme example, but let's say that somebody goes into the store and they don't wear a mask and they're accosted each time. Every time they go into a store, they're accosted. And I've had people like this actually. And I actually ask them, now, is your goal to be confronted and belittled and chided? And as if you're a bad person or a naughty kid? And when I ask it in that way, they literally say, no, that's not my objective anymore. Wonderful. Great answer. Now, what would you like to be able to do? I would like to be able to go into a store with peace and be left alone and have joy. I am all for that, I tell them. That is a wonderful thing to ask for. And I'll give you an example. Went into a store. I was the only one unmasked, and I'm walking around, and I grab my things, and I go to self-checkout, and one of the store employees comes by and says, "It's so nice to see someone's face." And I told her, I said, hang in there. It isn't much longer. They're going to start repealing things which they already have done because it's now a week out of the inauguration, and they're going to do what they do. And, we know it's political. Most of us do. Most of us get it. There's a very few people out there that are actually physically or mentally afraid of a virus. Most of us get it. I think we're more afraid about the possibility of being responsible for somebody else getting it because maybe we were careless. But I can tell you right now, it doesn't matter what you do. That person, you cannot save them from a virus because that's not your job and you can't prove that it came from you nor didn't come from you. So if you feel guilty enough that you're wearing a mask because of guilt, then you and I need to have a conversation about something else. But suffice to say, that's a gift for you if that's running through your mind. We can talk about that maybe in another podcast. But this one, we're going to get now to an extreme example, and this is where the real pain starts for some of you. And I am actually sorry for you. But hear my words with love, not with pity. And so let's say we have a woman who has been raped. Now, do we tell her to her face that she actually asked for that experience? Nobody's going to go to her face and tell her that. That's rude and that's unkind. But if that is you and you're here listening to my words, then know that there are certain things that you've put into your mind that you have wanted to draw fearful experiences into your environment, and that is certainly one. Maybe you have a belief in your mind that you wanted to be powerless. You might even be yelling at your radio right now at me because of the words that I'm saying. I'm okay if you do that, by the way. But if healing is on the other side, and I help you take full control and responsibility from here forward, and you release the pain of that event and realize you were the one that gave you the gift of release from that event, and you have now opened the door of your prison and walked out, I could not be more happy for you. I'm not absolving the person that did the thing to you, if it's something different, but you've equated it to that. That is not what I'm saying. They have their own issues and their own recompense, and trust me, it is coming. But for you, we're talking about setting you free. That's what we're really concerned about. And so, when we have a problem with our own identity and we don't understand our true power, we will give it up. And the thing is that nobody can totally give up their own power. Now, you can believe you can, and you can become powerless, but you actually cannot do it. And remember, to deny your power will inevitably result in projection. What does that mean? It means that you will project onto others things that you will demand from them. So if I'm in a place of powerlessness, I might project onto other people that I am unworthy. And so they're going to treat me in ways of unworthiness. They're going to belittle me. They're going to think little of me. They're going to make fun of me in front of other people. And I'm actually demanding that from them because I believe that. Let me give you another example. When we start projecting things like fear, now we have people that will come at us and make us fearful. We'll see fear in different ways, and that's what we're demanding that we see. So we're blaming others for doing things to us, but it is us the entire time projecting out onto others what we are demanding return. Now, when you hear those words, and you may have to replay that a couple of times, you must receive the messages that you give. And so if you have a message inside of you of one of littleness and fearfulness and pity and powerlessness, then that's what you're demanding the world hand to you in droves. And it will in a myriad of different ways. And some of those things we've already talked about. But if all of a sudden you realize, I don't want to be that way anymore, and I'm going to ask you right now, if that's you or somebody you love, could you ask them, is that what you want? Is it a simple question to ask? It is. It can seem like a hurtful question to ask somebody. Are you stupid? Who would want to be this way? I agree, but we can be quite insane when we're powerless. And so watch for people that are that way because they can react. Now, interestingly enough, Bill and I were talking about a situation. May we talk about that? Where a gal reacted to another's comment about her husband. Okay? Can you give us just brief synopsis? Don't be over verbose about it, but can you give us the lay of the land, so to speak?
I think it was a simple a moment of miscommunication.
Sure.
This gal suffers from a trauma.
Yeah, we'll call that. Yeah.
And the situation was simply that there are certain things in the back of her mind that she set away.
Yeah. And she recognizes that.
And she recognizes
that.
Good. And when something bothers her, she will remove herself from the room, walk out of the room, or change the subject of what she's talking about to relieve that.
If I may, that's admirable. Why? Because she's not making other people walk on eggshells around her.
No, absolutely not.
And if you are walking around eggshells around somebody else, I want you to hear this. Because she recognized that she's the one with the issue. She doesn't demand that other people change. So she removed herself. And I have an issue when we try to change an environment because of one individual or two individuals. And now we punish everybody because of it. I disagree with that mentality, just on that alone. But now we have this woman. Okay, we're going to jump back into it. So we have this woman. She removed herself.
Well, that's correct. And she went out to get a little fresh air.
Yep.
The wife of this gentleman went out because they're good friends and wanted to know why she left the room.
Sure.
So she said, well, your husband was staring at me.
And she perceived something she didn't like.
Absolutely. Yep. And then she comes back on their friendship and just absolutely without listening to the last of the sentence of thought of the lady who was on,
getting fresh air.
Yep. Sure. Bango. She just cut her off and the friendship and the whole works and walked away.
It's gone. Yeah. And so here we have the dominant mentality of our public at this point. They're hair triggered. They're responding to situations with hurt and injury when she didn't just simply say, oh my gosh, I'm sorry that you perceive something like that. I'm so glad you are able to remove yourself from that situation. Is there anything I can do for you?